Morning, guys. The heat's back in Bulgaria. It was 35 degrees here yesterday, and the little air conditioning thing I bought for £12 was fantastic. It kept the temperature down just nice, so it was comfortable. With the aircon you can get that gets too chilly. But this was great. So as long as the motor holds up, it should be okay. It could be a game changer. Um, anyway, I've been watching with interest what's going on in the UK, and I would just make a few points that I could observe from being. I've had two spells abroad, and I was 8 years in living in Gibraltar, and now I've been 20 years on and off uh, living in Bulgaria, and I got a good perspective there because I was 50-50 for well, I've been here 5 years full time now, but I was 50-50 before that for 20 years. um, and so you get to see the directions the two countries were going, and it was quite stark actually to me that the directions they were going. One was on the way up, which is Bulgaria, and one was on the way down. Mainly the society and the demoralisation. Um, if you'd ever look up a guy called Yuri Benzimov, just search him on YouTube. Yuri Benzimov, I think that's it, the name. Um, it'll come up anyway if you type in something like that. Uh, but he describes how you demoralise a country now. I would say so. Southport, my early recollections and also recent recollections. I know Southport quite well, and I've done quite a few contracts in Southport. And when we were kids, it was a go-to place. We had two or three places from where we used to go in Liverpool. One was over the other side of the Mersey on the ferry, and the other one was um, Southport, or just before Southport, a place called Freshfields, which is a very nice place. I think they used to take us there because there was less shops. There's nothing there, only squirrels and toads. Um, I think that's why we used to go there. There was nothing there. But we did used to go and get the blueberries. They're fantastic from the sand dunes. Absolutely fantastic days out. So, and you could drive down the beach. And actually, Southport was the first place I ever swam as a kid. I was about 10, something like that, and it was in the saltwater outdoor pool. Because they used to have an outdoor pool, and I don't know whether they do now. I think there was kind of mutins that they were gonna revamp it or make another one. I don't know if that ever happened or not. Um, that was the first time I ever swam, and you always remember them days. And you could drive down the beach from Ainsdale down to Freshfields Way in the car. So that was the first place I ever drove, because you could drive when you were a kid down the beach if your dad was that kind of dad who let you do it. And that's the first place I ever drove, as well as swim. So there's the memories. So and then later on, I've done quite a few contracts in Southport. Now, Southport to me was always, I don't know, I don't want to be derogatory to the Southport people, but it was kind of a retirement place mixed with It wanted to be a seaside resort, which it was never Blackpool, and it was a normal working town as well, with Lord Street, quite a normal high street. So it was trying to be all different things. And the back end of Southport was just like any normal place, but it was quite compared with Liverpool in the '70s, quite well to do. And I think it still is now. So that was Southport for me, and I've done many contracts there. I think we built it. I think it was at Iceland or a Lidl, and then there was a few jobs at the back end of Southport on a business park estate. We did some work there. So we've done quite a lot. And on the front, we did a place for veterans, like a hotel type thing. We put a load of accommodation on the back, just by the pier. So I know Southport quite well. So how do you get from there to where we are now, and the things that have happened now, and more specifically, how do you produce individuals like this kid or boy or whatever you want to call them, youth? How do you produce people like that, and how do they come to do things that they do? Well, I think it's all a big soup, and these people, they know that they're not included. Like the British people, they do all this inclusivity and all that, but it's kind of a lot of it's just signalling, and they don't take part at all in these communities, and they don't have these people as friends. I know that because I know thousands and thousands of I think they're called virtual signalers, and like everything's rosy, and they love the refugee type stuff, and everyone's deserves this and that, the other, and but they never practice what they preach. I used to say to people, and I was like, called all sorts of names. I probably my views would be classed as far right, but I was never far right because my wife was a foreigner, and I lived abroad and I live abroad now as a foreigner. I'm an immigrant, and I behave myself in Bulgaria, and I take part in Bulgaria. There's no English around here, none. I'm the only one. So I'll explain that the way things went and how you get to these people. So they say that they love the immigration and all that. And I used to say to them, well, how come? How come you don't go and live in we had some areas like ghettos and that, or semi-ghettos in Liverpool. I said, why don't you go and live there, get a place there? Or why don't you hang about there? Or why don't you go to Bradford for the weekend, or even move there? It would be fantastic. Be fantastic. Get all that enrichment. But it was always never in my backyard, and this is what's happened. Now it's in their front garden, never my backyard, and that's what was always going to happen. And they were warned about all this and about all, what they were creating, and they by and large the British population have done a lot of the stuff to themselves, and they still are now, and they're going along with this political police, and the police are very political, and to all these I don't know what it. what you call them, minorities or whatever, and also the minority factions like the LGBTQ, that they're kind of obsessed with them, the police, when they're supposed to be there to make sure you don't get burgled or your car doesn't get stolen. That's what primarily they were there for. In the days when I was learning to swim in Southport, that's what the police were there for, to keep the local hooligans in check, and that's what they were there for. Not now. That's not what they do now. They enforce political views and also ethical views, and the population do a lot of the political correctness to themselves. I used to go back from Bulgaria loads of times, and people be worse and worse. Well, not worse and worse, more and more political correct. If that's what you think is great, then knock yourself out. Become political correct country, which it more or less is, the UK. And this is why they don't understand how you get to these situations and what they've just had, and many more. You know, this happens all the time. This was the worst, probably. The worst thing that could happen was in Southport. It's usually between slightly older children, but not much. You know, they're in the teens mostly. The other kids roaming about with knives, and it's how you get to that situation. Now, I always like to compare mainly the Balkans. I don't like to focus too much on Bulgaria because it's not utopia here. And do you have crime? Of course you do. Everywhere has crime. Everywhere in the world. There's a few places where they don't. But locally around here, we don't have much crime at all, and you'd never get something like this happening. Never. And it might happen in a city, or if you get some proper lunatic, but this isn't like, it wouldn't be the systemic stuff what you get in the UK. And what it is a lot of them are second generation, like this kid, right? And they've been born into this, so they haven't even picked up their culture before they've immigrated, which it kind of helps in a funny kind of way. You know, it helps me here. I've got another culture, and if I was just born here and my parents were immigrants, and I was like, they were fresh into the country when I was born, and they weren't like really included. They say they are, but they're not. All these English people, they love the refugee thing and the thing. Another question that they always got asked is, would you have one in your, put one up in your house, you know, and because they need somewhere to live, and they kind of avoid the question a lot of the time, because really deep down they know, and so the other things are that they destroy themselves, and these people, like this kid, they can see how mixed up the people are. They can see that they don't mean anything that they're saying, and they don't really practice what they preach a lot of the time. And on all the green stuff, they think getting a bag for life is, job done, and things like that, or the unplug of an electrical appliance, and they think that's it, done. And they go outside to the great big Land Rover or the Range Rover, go to shops with the bag for life. That's what the UK is to me. Just a mixed up, place, and they're very, very quick to jump on people, which that's what they're doing now. And the people who are protesting, who also have no idea what they're protesting against or for or anything, because their culture's gone. It's gone. It's the youth of today. I don't really see how they can have a culture. The indigenous people, because it's all gone. It's all been wiped away. You can't even be a nationalist. You can't. They're trying to do away with Christmas and Easter and all the rest of it. Now that's a big thing in Bulgaria. Now, these would be all deemed far right because they're all nationalist. All of them, to a man and a woman. And they all love being Bulgarian. And the Romanians, they love being Romanian. And in Bulgaria, they fly the flag on every other house. I've got one on here for respect. I've got one on my place because I like it. I like the whole thing about being a nation state. I don't know why, I just do. Maybe because we didn't have it. In England, you can't be English, but at the same time you can be Scottish nationalist. This is how mixed up the place is. It's like Wacky Warehouse, or whatever you want to call it. I don't know. Wacky Warehouse probably not the right name. It's like I don't know. It's like surreal England to me. It's like it always has been for decades. Because I've seen other places as well, like where I live now. And people know who they are here. That's a big thing. They know who they are. And even that kid, he would know who he was here. That's they have different factions here. It's not like all like nationalist race wise or anything like that. It's 25% Islam. Bulgaria, you wouldn't know it. And when you go to the Islam areas, they were told in the 70s they can either go back to Turkey and become, proper Islam radical or whatever they want to be, or they can stay here and become, not so radical, and they had to take on Bulgarian names and things like that because they'd been under Ottoman rule for hundreds and hundreds of years, and they didn't want it anymore. And so that was that. And they didn't want all these radicals in the country. So the people said, yeah, okay, and a lot of them stayed, and they live like what we lived and what the people live here now. Now, when I was a kid and when I was learning to swim in Southport, now we existed then under a Christian framework. We weren't religious, but the things were done around the church and around the around the Christian religion or the framework. I would call it a framework because it was never about really too much about God and all that. I mean, some people were religious like that, but like a lot of it was around the church. I went to 2 church schools in the UK. My grammar school was Church of England, and we had a chapel in the school and everything. It was never ever pushed, ever, in school. It was very rare, and it was optional. There was we used to go on certain days of the year to the church. We had a church right next door to the school, and then at Christmas, which was a good day out, we used to go to the cathedral, and other schools would go. They'd have a great big carol service and all that. It was good. It was okay, but it was never rammed. It was never radical, and that's where Bulgaria is now. the framework is around the Christian Orthodox, well, the Christian Orthodox people in the country, and the others have an Islamic framework, but it's not fanatical. It's the same type of thing. You know, they have the mosque and they have this and that, but they're not fanatical, and they don't like practice very strict things. But like they follow the religion, and they're allowed to. And the Christians do the same, and they're allowed to, which you're not anymore in the UK. You're demonised for being a Christian or in a Christian framework, and that's more and more the Christianisation. All this plays into what happened, Southport, and the Paris Olympics ceremony. All them type of people. This all plays in to how you produce these people, like this kid, and there's loads of them. They're not just him. There's plenty of them knocking about in the UK. They don't usually do what he did, but you know, they do it to each other, and there's loads of it. Yeah, we all know about that. The crime. So that's how we get to like where you're at. So the population, they don't know who they are, right? Now I'll just say about Bulgaria as well. That you know, the proud of being Bulgarian, and even the Islamic Bulgarians, you know, they like Bulgaria. They like living here because you know, in Turkey, I think it's a little bit more strict. I don't think it's ultra strict, but I don't know. I don't fancy Turkey. I've never been there. I'll probably go to Istanbul one day, just for interest. I've heard it's pretty impressive, so I might go and have a look on the Orient Express. That's the train that goes there. That'd be a good kind of weekend. So I might do that one day. So they're all wondering now. You watch the news now, and there's very little about what happened last week. Or was it this week? I don't know. A few days ago. There's very little about that kind of thing. What they're all talking about now is the government and Starmer. They're talking about social media. Now, I'm on social media. And I'm not allowed to have a lot of my views. And I don't say half of them anyway on YouTube. Because you're not allowed to say things. And for me, that's another thing. That, like, the population do that to themselves. The Western populations, they're doing it all to themselves. And they've created this political and bizarre police force as well, who police them. And this is what we're seeing now. And there's other people who are confused about like why they can't be national, proud of being national and have a flag. And so that doesn't happen here. The Bulgarians don't destroy themselves. And a good example, actually, which I've recently discovered, is Albania. Now, it does have some problems there with crime. I think most of them are in the UK, actually, by the look of it. But religious-wise, it's like half Christian and half Islam. But they're both just frameworks, like I've described, how it is in Bulgaria, and how it was actually in the UK. But now what you've got in the UK is like a fanatical type Islam, but you've got a kind of banned Christian faith sort of people. You know, they're demonised whatever they do. You saw that in the Paris Olympics with the guy. All he had was the statue in Rio where he's from. he had it on his surfboard, and he said, "Oh no, we can't have that. We're neutral." And then they wheel out all these people mocking the Last Supper and all that, and riding on the pale horse, which is straight from the Bible. um, and actually, I don't know if it ever played into it, what happened, but that Taylor Swift, she's demonic. Uh, a lot of them are these pop stars, and they make out that these girly things, but a lot of this stuff's demonic, and that may have been a factor. It's certainly a factor for the kids who have been brought up and have been fed all sorts of stuff in the schools. It's terrible what they're doing in schools, teaching them about things. It's very mixed up, and there I would even agree with the Islamic people in the UK. They stand up against it. They say, "Oh no, you're not. We don't do that in schools," and they're down kicking the door in, in the schools. So that's at least they know their rules. A lot of people are saying that now. Actually, at least they know the rules, and they don't demonise themselves for practicing their ideology. And that they know who they are, and this is the big thing now. And these kids, they know that the indigenous people don't know who they are, and and they get mixed up with that. And what are you supposed to be being included into if they don't know who they are? And in Eastern Europe, it's not like that at all. It's like the old when I was learning to swim in Southport them days when I was about 10 to 20. Probably why I like it so much here. It's like the 70s, but everyone's proud of who they are, and they all they love the traditions here, and they all practice them, and they love Easter, and they love New Year and everything. And they've all got these name days, and they've got student days, they've got like military day, and all that kind of stuff, which is also discouraged now in the UK. The military stuff. I think they're trying to do with all the Armistice Day and all that, the Poppy Days, and there's people hijacking those things, and it wouldn't happen here. And they have all sorts here, student day, medical, they have everything, really. It's surprising they ever go to work. Some people say that. Surprising they ever get time to go to work. They have that many national days and holidays and name days, and my name days, I think it's 6th or 7th of December, Nickel and Den, and that's when, and they all have these traditions when they eat fish and stuff like that. That's my day. I don't think it's linked with actually my name day, but it's the same day. Another day, which is they all eat the freshwater fish, the carp, or catfish, or I eat trout. I don't like eating I don't like eating carp, for some reason. So anyway, that's the way I see the way the UK is mixed up, and it's not going to get any better. And you've got, in addition to all this, you've got you've got all the debt, and you've got all the climate stuff being rammed down the throat, which a lot of that's fantasy. Looks like, because we had outdoor pools in the 70s. I don't think it's warm enough to have them now for any long amount of period. We used to have summers, and it was like summertime, but you don't now. So anyway, they're kind of some of the things what I would say is playing into all this, and it's basically a soup of a mixed up nation, very very mixed up, and reportedly it's the hub now of mental illness, the UK, and I can see why. It's been heading that way for decades. People don't know who they are, what they are. You haven't got a clue. Okay, that's just my opinion of why these things are happening, and they don't even know now what they're protesting against or what they want to be or anything. Okay, cheers.